So this is supposed to be a really brief presentation so you get a sense of how I'm planning on using this internet safety presentation with my students. So the first thing is I want to sort of get a sense of their understanding of the internet, and typically I find it's quite poor actually. They don't know how it works. And if you understand how the internet works, then a lot of the issues around privacy make a lot more sense. So step one, just talk about how people access websites. How does information transfer from websites? And recognize that there's an awful lot of computers involved every time you connect a website. So I start with my computer, and then I connect, and then I get sent off by a central node to another system of computers. And actually, this picture is kind of inaccurate because there's way more computers involved. Imagine a much larger network. In fact, imagine a network that's gigantic. This is a picture of the internet, and it is a representation, obviously, of the internet, where each of the ends of one of these lines is a network, and that distributes off to an IP. And this is sort of an example of the end of one of these things. So all of these things here are the connections between the different parts of the internet, and you can see that it is gigantic. And if I want to connect to a computer over on the other side of the internet, then I need to connect through a lot of computers in the way in between. And most of that information is sent like postcards rather than letters. So the analogy would be a postcard. One side of the information is the address, and the other side is the message. That's kind of true of messages that we send around the internet. And in the case of encrypted websites, it's more like a letter. It's possible, although very unlikely at this stage, for someone to open up the letter and read it on the way through. But the big idea is that the internet is more like sending postcards around than sending letters around. So, and that sort of leads to this helpful diagram to recognize that internet and privacy are necessarily discrete, because you cannot go to a website without informing people of where you're going. Then we're going to have to do an activity where the students do a Google search and attempt to find themselves, and if they don't find themselves, they're going to try to find myself. I'm comfortable with what's online, as well as the other teacher that's working with me. We've sort of previewed our profiles ahead of time. I strongly recommend doing that. And then talk about Facebook and the potential issues there. And of course, we want to balance with the idea that this is a communication tool, and that all communication tools have their benefits and drawbacks. But sometimes the amplification effects of social media are kind of, we're not really sure where stuff is going to go. Then, of course, my own privacy settings on my Facebook. This is before I set my privacy settings really, really securely. This is afterwards, and discussion of why that's important to do. And I'm also going to balance that with a discussion that it's okay to have public spaces to post in, just to remember that they're public. That you can go and scream in the public market if you want, but don't say things that you're worried about other people hearing. Don't scream it if you wouldn't scream it in front of your grandmother, so to speak. There's this great video, which we'll show. It talks about some of these issues, and I'll skip it for now. Have a discussion around Facebook and privacy after that. Then, talk about sticks and stones and what do we actually mean by what is cyberbullying, and what's the effect, and what does it feel like, and how do people feel who are being cyberbullied, and then compare that to real life bullying, non-digital bullying, and say, look, they're the same thing. It's just a different communication tool. There are differences, obviously. Cyberbullying can occur more anonymously than day-to-day bullying, but there are some significant similarities as well. So what is cyberbullying? And then I think we'd round it off with a discussion of action items, which one of the people who gave me some feedback recommended I do. Anyway, hope this makes more sense now.